Okay, screen thing. So let's look out here at discussion. So a new course that's available here now. I can get back to it. Modern Apps Ninja 101. And, a big part of this course, well, not discussion, course, big part of this course is it fits in a little broader context of some things I want to talk about today, which is really structuring things for community participation. With PKS Ninja, and I kind of anticipated, and the way things really did work out is it's not enough to, it was never enough to say, hey, I've got this thing on GitHub, and I know there's a lot of people who really want to participate, and so let's just say, hey, people can come participate in this kind of nebulous way and expect much, right? I mean, we ended up getting a tremendous amount of participation in PKS Ninja, and it didn't just happen randomly at any particular time. I mean, what it really took is that as much as people want to contribute, and as much as they will and do end up in fact contributing, and do end up in fact spending time, how exactly you create the formula that really optimizes for contribution when you have a large audience that's interested, but mostly everybody has a little time here, a little time there. And I think what happens is that it's really about structure, right? If you say, on one hand, having some things listed out and shared in a place where people can see big ideas and things that are directionally working on, that helps, but it's still fairly nebulous. What we saw before doing PKS Ninja is really the sweet spot in I think driving participation is really having things distilled into clear tasks. And so I felt for a while like, the optimal sweet spot to get participation is there's really kind of a couple layers for optimizing community participation. And, one of those is really having maybe somebody who's more, or some people who are a little bit deeper and more at the project management layer, and the subset of the audience that wants to get, pretty deep into things, and then using and then the people who are doing that to really be able to distill things into tasks. And I think there needs to be things like the reward system and the gamification help tremendously, but having the rewards and gamification alone it doesn't do the trick, because when the project is nebulous and people have to come and think about a lot of different things before they can effectively do something, it really inhibits contribution. If people can come and see, here's a specific task, I can go do that. They may, the participants, a lot of times they may spend more than enough time doing tasks and do a lot of different tasks, as we saw, but in order to really get that happening, things need to be distilled into tasks. I think a good example of that is if you look at how the competitions were structured, and we've always had a lot of things that could be done, and we've always kind of had that ability to say, hey, look, here's a whole bunch of different ideas of things that are fairly nebulous, and you can come and chit chat with me directly, and maybe we'll talk about figuring out how to turn that into a project plan, and talk about boiling it down to specific tasks and all that. And that's just, it's too nebulous to really get things moving, where everything here in the competitions, which I think was really a sweet spot, these are functions that are really do benefit, but like first, take a lab, validate it, report an issue, commit an updated improvement, resolve an issue, and these could be, I think, really any task that's clear and concrete, with a clear set of instructions around a specific task. It may be a more advanced task, it may be a simpler task, but I think that's the key thing. And so I've been thinking about that a lot. I've been talking to Peg about what we would need to do to get competitions going again. And I don't even think it necessarily needs to just be in the context of competitions. I've been thinking, you know, there's tasks like, let's say there's a course that we're interested in doing, right? And in an ideal world, as we build out a course, we break it into sections where we have major topic and then subtopics, where the subtopics, one part of that is create a 5-minute video, 5 to 10 minute video, short video going over this specific subtopic, right? And then another one, I think that's a nice low-hanging fruit is, here's a lab exercise section, you could create a walkthrough video. So basically, go through it once, make sure you understand how to do it, and then create a video walking through it where your goal is not necessarily to try to explain every concept, but not everybody loves walkthrough videos, but there's definitely a subset of the audience that would it does very much appreciate having a walkthrough video. And I really like that one because I think it's if you're coming through these courses, you may not feel comfortable presenting the topic, or you may there may be a cognitive impact where you think, ooh, presenting a topic that sounds like may take a little effort, and I want to make, maybe I want to feel like, oh, I want it to be polished, and I'm going to put it as part of these courses, and it may, some of those things can lead to, say, procrastination, right? Where I really want to make, most of these where we have lab guides have opportunities for members of the community to say, do something that is not seen as like needing to be particularly fancy or special, and so we get an asset, but also give a real opportunity for members of the community to have their face out there to really create that participatory feeling. So I think distilling things more into the task level, so where I started with that. So the Modern Apps Ninja course, it's there in this context of taking things from where they are now on the learning management system, where we've got some good content, and starting to really augment that content with making sure when people come and take a course that they understand that there's a learning community here. And so there's a couple things. There's a video that I created here on the Modern Apps Ninja YouTube channel that is, let's see, welcome, it's the welcome one. Welcome to the Modern Apps Ninja community. And this one is one that I want to put in the introduction section of each of the courses. And maybe not necessarily every course, like if for example, that there's a 101 that's a prerequisite to the 201, and you put it in the 101 that's the prerequisite, and you go look at that 201, it has the 101 as the prerequisite, well then that person's seen the video. And I'm really very much considering, this course is a pretty short course. I think it's about 20 minutes. I'm really considering saying that if you want to get a certificate of completion for the 101 level, you need to go and take this 20-minute course so you understand. And that doesn't mean you have to do it to take the course. You can come, take the course, learn from it. And I don't know that I'm necessarily want to make it mandatory, but I think at some point, one of the goals we have here and how we credential, and I think one of the opportunities we have here and how we credential is in the world of say certifications and online courses and things of that nature. There's an effort to improve in how you can help ensure that people are ready for action when they get a particular credential, and how esteemed a credential may be is often aligned with, what do people need to do to complete it, and how can we make sure that when they complete a particular credential that they they have a readiness to put that to effect, and that you get esteem for a particular credential based on that. And those models have been evolving and changing, where for a lot of certifications, there's this kind of loop that they're stuck in. All that they have are the ability to do tricky multiple choice type of questions, and then you have brain dumps. And some people go find brain dumps, and so a lot of certifications, passing rates were initially a reasonable thing. You have to get 80% to pass this test, and then people will go out and get brain dumps. And so some subset of people in the audience who are going out to get brain dumps to get a certification, they're just coming through and passing it 90-something% because they have the exact test questions. The next thing you know, well, then the test certification org is upping it to where now you all of a sudden have to end up getting 94% just to pass the certification test. And that's, none of that has to do necessarily with the quality of education. It has to do with limiting factors like all that you can do is have just some question and answers. That's the only thing you can really do to enforce your credential. And then as massively open online courses have become popular, they've kind of been able to evolve on that model to where you can have a really highly scalable thing. You go to edX and you go to Coursera and Udacity, you see lots of university style courses that are closer to the engagement model that you have when someone takes a certification, and they're closer to practical, generally often closer to like practically doing things than they are about theory. And so it's kind of like a way to take all sorts of subjects and give them in any particular subject something like similar to a way to engage in getting a credential that's like we've had in the IT industry, a certification, but because of the way that they've done things, they've been able to introduce additional mechanisms other than just I have to take a multiple choice type of question at the end of things, and that's the only lever that I have to be able to credential people. So that you can say you have to be consistently participating here over a period of time. They have ways of scaling up, things like written answer type questions and doing peer-to-peer grading that are secure, and engaging in a range of other activities that can be monitored and validated, which really adds to a broad amount to the scope of what can be expected when someone says, hey, I went and spent in a month in an online course and I got a MicroMaster's certificate from Harvard. What exactly did that entail? And it's not just a traditional multiple choice test. It becomes now this varied range of things. And so I think about Modern Apps Ninja community. On one hand, you can get a course completion certificate, but we're definitely thinking about how do we reward and offer meaningful credentials to people who not just come and take a course, right? You get a course completion certificate, but how do you offer a credentialing and reward system for people who are really actively participating in the community? And so in my head, I'm thinking, one thing that's nice about having a name like Ninja is a very large percentage of people who come to participate or like have said the exact phrase, I want to be a ninja, right? So I'm definitely thinking about how to incorporate that more in a gamification, in increasing gamification throughout how we implement the courseware and how we can reward people who take a more active stance. Because I think, as you think about how can you improve the effectiveness of a course, and how can you increase what people expect and what people believe and the perception that they have about whatever credential or badge or reward that you offer for attaining some educational status. Right, I really think what we do here, it would really be a powerful lever to say, hey, we have something that's a ninja badge, something along those lines. And if you can get that, and ideally I'd love it to be free, but it's not, but what it is this involves the concept of we're going to contribute back to the community. We're going to share our knowledge. We're going to, and I think that's, one of the powerful things about that is I think, with new technologies, we have this big gap, and it's one of the things I've always hoped to address with this program is I go take a course, and then I need to go and do something in production. And there's such a gap there that exists. And I think it's when you're going from vSAN 3 to vSAN 4, that gap is not as important, right? But when you're going from, like as we did with an SX, We've got a company that manages a virtual environment, a large virtual infrastructure environment. And we have a physical networking people, and we have VI admins, and that's all we have. And now all of a sudden this concept of these robust and complex virtual networks come into play. I got to create a whole new operational role for that, a whole new set of processes that change everything kind of from end to end around virtual infrastructure administration. That's not your run-of-the-mill, I'm going to go take a class and, no, that means that somebody has to go take a class. Like you're going to go take an ICM course. They're going to play with something in the lab environment. And then at some point, they've got to turn that into, I am implementing something in a production system. And so that could be, that also applies to, I'm doing infrastructure as code. I want to do agile processes. I want to do, workflow automation for how I apply my infrastructure automation to bring it from lab to production. I want to learn how to do agile process management with Kanban boards and things like that. There's I think a really big gap in a difficulty and a challenge for people from, I'm going to go take a classroom course where I can maybe get a little experience playing with something in a carefully prepared and lab environment where it's fine if I break things, and the next thing you know, I'm trying to do those things and really implement these fundamentally new things in a production environment where my job's potentially at risk. And so, thought is, leverage the maintenance of the community and the assets that we have in the community to provide an opportunity for people to get experience doing the things that they will need to do as they implement modern application, cloud native application technologies and work, and at the same time, have also bring together that spirit of community and community participation and ideas as we get to credentialing and reward systems for that we can offer within the program potentially, that as we have ones that may be more cumulative and really take into effect, some the contributions that some people make is have part of that. Now, I may have a credential that said that is part of it is, this is a valuable credential because I can look at it and know this person has done things. I can, like we have with the kind of the GitHub pages, the portfolio pages that we're intending to implement more here. You can click through people's credentials and portfolios and see, I didn't just take some tests, I contributed in many different ways to production assets. I gave, I built learning materials. I handled issue ticket triaging. I received pull requests and did code reviews reviews on the pull requests and put in approvals. I did, we have like some Kubernetes assets and application assets that we have running. Maybe I participated in some way in helping with the architecture and administration of those systems, and I did it in this contribution back to the community. And so I think that could really enhance a credential and really create something that is in some ways a level above, more effective than the other systems that kind of are in existence, where really the credential that you get is still, I did some exercises that were a simulation of the real world in a scripted and kind of prepared environment versus, I dove in and actually really worked on something real. So I haven't finished the point system yet, but I think this course is a big step towards that, to where, so we have the welcome to the community. And it's a short video, and the intent is have it again at the front of each course. And it just a brief overview of the community, letting people know, hey, come take the course. Hope you enjoy it. I hope it's a very valuable thing for you. But we also know that our journey as IT, from the way we've done things to modern applications and cloud native applications and process automation, infrastructure as code, that's not a simple journey. It's not going to happen overnight. And we want to do it together as a community because there's a lot to do. And so take the course. note about, of course, feedback and how important the feedback is for us to, for the community. And also, by the way, you know, we have the GitHub side, we have the Slack channel side, we have the Google group, we have these other things, and we'd love for you to learn more about those and participate in the community. And so come take this Modern Apps Ninja 101, where we go a little bit more into the vision for the community. 101 is not meant to like boil the ocean in terms of we're gonna jump into Git forking repositories and doing, you know, the more involved tasks that someone might get to over time. What the 101 is really introducing that you know, the idea and the possibilities, you know, that these assets exist, and really trying to create the awareness for anybody who comes and takes a course here that there's this whole side of community that is a big opportunity to maximize your learning experience, to participate in an interactive community with your peers in a meaningful way, and hopefully we'll see that, and so have that, you know, brief video at the front of every course so they learn a little bit about the community, they have the awareness that that's there. And then with the 101, and then once I have the 201, 301 parts out, that will go through how to actually do that participation. And I think kind of close that loop is implementing the, you know, with the point system, where points mostly entail things that I could do to contribute back to the community. Then you have that kind of gamification element, and ideally with the point system leading to some credential that is maybe more like a certification of sorts than what we're doing now, and what we'll continue to do for individual courses, which is I took a course, I got a certificate of completion, not the same thing as having a, you know, certification per se, right? Yeah, so so definitely, if you get the chance, check out the Modern Apps Ninja 101. I'm planning on sending out an update to the mailing list, and so there's a, so I didn't want to make this an especially long course because I really, you know, some people come and they see TMC 101. I know why I want to do TMC 101. I want to learn about Tone mission control. And if that's why you came to the community, you're not necessarily going to want to go take an hour-long course before you know anything about the broader aspect of the community. But, you know, maybe 20 minutes with some incentivization, that'll start to give that exposure and make sure that people can see that there's a lot more opportunity for learning experience, even if it's not necessarily contribution. Maybe it's knowing that there's the Slack channel, knowing that we have the Google group, and that there's, you know, this desire and opportunity for people to interact, or that we have you know, events, and hopefully we'll have competitions and so on. So I have more I could keep on going, but I know we're getting close to the top of the hour. Let me pause there and see any discussion, and also not even just on that topic, right? I want to make sure we leave room if there's other topics that people want to, or questions that people may want to bring up. Please go ahead.
So Art, a small question on my side is, how much traction have you got until now with the Modern Apps Ninja community? How many people tried it already?
I think Peg was just looking at, Peg, you said like what, over 300 something people have registered, right?
Yeah, about 330, something like that, registered.
So that's, you know, pretty good. I think I don't know how much, I know there's a lot of intent that different people have that I think is legitimate intent in terms of sharing it more intensively with the partner community, and I think there has been initiation of some exposure to the VMUG leaders at this point, and so I think there's awareness there. But I think those things kind of take time, and also relate to you know, are maximized by having a regular cadence to, there's a new course, there's a new content, there's a, you know, a newsletter or something that helps to, and then of course I think, you know, gamification is going to play a huge element in that, as we get more, you know, that's still that kind of give and take with the need to get more content out. Now we're up to 4 courses, which is great, but I think, you know, there's hopefully a lot more, and
yeah, I think one of the, if you don't mind me interrupting, I think one of the interesting things as I look through the registrations, that's only about a month's worth, maybe 6 weeks worth of of activity too, right? Art, this, you know, putting the stuff out there and open on Modern Apps Ninja.
Well, just as a data point, I remember you had asked how many people participated in the competition before, and I know I forget exactly what it was. I was looking at some metrics from that, and I know there were over 100 participants, but I just noticed last night, as I was looking at the old repo, it had 83 contributors. So while some people may have came and started a participation, and any level of participation in the competition involves making a Git commit, right? Yeah. To if nothing else, validate a lab guide, right? And so over the entire scope of that program and all the activity we ended up having 83 committers. So I think we've still being very, very early on in this and not having really done too much to actively promote it, having over 330 some odd signups, I think is a positive indicator.
And there definitely a few customers out there. Healthcare space, somebody in healthcare must be saying something to their customers, because there have been a few customer email addresses out there rather than Gmail or VMware. So it's kind of interesting.
And one of the other indicators that we see is the course feedback forms, because we do ask that if people get to the end of a course. We ask kind of at the beginning of the course, hey, fill out feedback if you're seeing, but where I really expect to see that action is if people finish a course. And I closed out a bunch of tickets last night, so this wasn't done from the beginning, or there would be more. This is really done after the first initial couple hackathons, where I think a lot of people, the initial wave of internal people had taken courses. After that, we implemented this feedback mechanism, but came in and checked on it last night, and there were, I think, somewhere around 10 tickets that I hadn't triaged yet. And so a lot of them are, hey, this is a great course. And so those ones I close out, and then other ones have suggestions and feedback. And so I've added labeling to these ones here, so it's clear that these ones have been triaged already. Now the course feedback form itself, when someone fills it out, it imposes the label with the course number. And so from the initial time that someone has submitted a feedback, you'll come in here, and each of the tickets will always have the course label, but that's one way to kind of very quickly and visually know if a feedback has been triaged. So definitely, I think this may be of interest to anybody in particular. Feel free to come through and see some of these feedbacks. I think everything has been very positive, and every one of them have had something good to say about it. Even, there's ones that say bug, right? And then they say bug, maybe something like, hey, I found a word that was misspelled here, right? So as appropriately, I think that fits as bug. One of them was just highlighting that in the portfolio overview, there's a couple new things that aren't covered there yet. And so I'd make a point to interact and respond every time there's a feedback. Some of them are just kind of suggestions. Hey, it'd be cool if this or that were there too. You can just click on this one just to see. Yeah, so I had this kind of conversation with Sean Sherwood here, as I thought was a great point. Coming into the intro course, I think the intro course is perfectly fine at that one. I think if I'm absolutely committed to over time having the large majority of our content be very technical and be very hands-on. But I also believe making courses very modular and small. And so one way to do it, if you think about TMC 201 and TMC 301, I'm sorry, TMC 101 and TMC 201, that could just be one course, in which case it would have a lot of lab materials. But I also think a good degree of modularity is important because we see that certain people are coming for certain things, certain people will point things at certain things for certain reasons. And so I think, modularizing things heavily, but what I really took from this is that you come and say, take Intro to Tanzu portfolio, there's nothing apparent in that course that says, hey, there's a lot of lab guides associated and hands-on exercises and technical depth that is associated with this course. it's not going to be in this course, right? This is the first module that will lead you into other modules where you're going to get lots of hands-on exercises. And so I don't think the answer, and I opened it to discussion, right? If Sean here has additional feedback about how he feels, but just basically think, the way I think of making sure that we handle that is if we do an introductory topic, making sure that in the context of that, it's very clear. Maybe as you have your initial video where we talk about the course or something for people who are starting the course, make it clear, hey, we're starting here at the big picture, because for me, I think understanding the big picture is really critical before you get down into the weeds, and so that's kind of my perspective. Not every course has to be that way, right? If anybody's contributing a course, you have a lot of latitude as to how you feel the best way is for that particular topic. But yeah, so that's just one example, but I think a lot of interesting, useful information here, and seeing continuing to see not a massive amount of tickets that are have been in this yet, but it's still a regular stream and cadence of tickets. Yeah, I think the big thing here is what'll really get this going, where I hope to be, is having more courses and or newsletter type content go out at a very regular cadence. So got Modern Apps Ninja. I'm hoping to get Tanzu Kubernetes Grid out hopefully today, hopefully over the weekend. I hate to make commitments like that because sometimes I haven't kept up with them, but I'm well into TKG. Out of time, but next week hopefully I'll be able to go over that more. But I'm kind of restructuring the TKG to where the 101 level is going to talk about, when you think about TKG, whether it's TKGI or TKG, so much of that is the same. Understanding the fact that there's a platform there that has a management layer that is creating Kubernetes clusters as a service for you, that are providing shared services. If you look at what are the shared services provided by TKG and TKGI, they fill the same exact roles, even if we're using slightly different components. And there's really, from that high level, both TKGI and TKG are providing an essentially identical service, and just using some different technical means about how they provide that service. And so at the 100 level, 101 level, going to introduce TKG as a family and not have TKG, TKGI, possibly vSphere, but use that family level introduction to say, here's what all the TKGs do. It creates the platform, it has lifecycle management, it provides shared services, it works, they plug into Tanzu Mission Control. And then at the very brief level, just kind of include enough information about the different editions of TKG to where people, get, an understanding, okay, I can consume through vSphere 7 for this reason. I consume as a service. I could use TKGI. And then at the 201 level, have additional educational content in addition to labs that starts to go into, okay, now I'm looking at TKGI specifically, or TKG multi-cloud specifically. I know we're at the top of the hour, so I'll stop there, but I'm still hanging out. So I apologize for leaving that at the end of the hour for those who have to go. But if there's any feedback or discussion on those points, I'm happy to hang around and discuss more if you have other things that you'd like to discuss.
I'll be dropping because it's weekend time over here. So thanks for the call. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Yep. Thanks a lot, guys.
Appreciate it. Oh, and Peg, I totally meant to go over that to show that charter as a team, but maybe it's best we look at give it an initial run with.
Yeah, well, it was definitely meant to be a draft for us to edit and do things like that. I'm
glad that I didn't this surprise you with that. Like, hey, here's in front.
Yeah, I was not expecting a presentation on it for sure. I did put material like that on that Tiger team, Squigger team slide that is sort of similar. I don't need to be off video, sorry.
Awesome.
Here. Anyway, and I think the data was good to gather and just have some bullet points for what they're doing, but I want to go into more detail in the actual charter itself.
Awesome. one of the things I didn't get to do in the main hour, but I think it'll be good, interesting for us is so I've been thinking again about driving engagement and the right model for engagement, and one of the things is the projects and how do we get projects going, and ideally if we have in working groups specifically, if we have working groups, we want to have some model to where working groups would meet at some regular cadence. And I really, kind of felt from the beginning, it's like the categorizations I made do make sense. Those are the things that I've been, working, and that's a logical organization of different types of tasks that are important things for the community. But I think we have way too many of them, especially for this point in time. And I started to think like, think about like for the different ones for different people within VMware based on role, kind of the intent there is like with the SE community, we've got the point system that's already aligned to some extent to where people can do Modern Apps Ninja contributions and get points for their role. And the idea is not necessarily to say that every role might get, an official recognition in their quarterly training plan for these modern, but to kind of spread the word. So if somebody's in, support, I know we have a lot of awareness among the support team and support from them, or like customer success and ACE team. We have just tremendous buy-in from their orgs, and this ways to maybe they could see what the SE team is doing and do something similar so they can get more official recognition, or even if not totally official, at least have that awareness. And so maybe within people's managers, they start to have this understanding that, hey, this things that I've been doing here for Modern Apps Ninja, I'm getting credentials from the Modern Apps Ninja community, but also are doing something to make sure that my management is potentially aware that we're really doing things that aren't valuable just to me or aren't valuable just to like this Modern Apps Ninja community, but that really are executing critical skills that are people of my role, really the type of things we really need to know to really maximize our ability to do our jobs well and help support our customers through as they do new things. I started thinking, it's like,
I think that makes sense, and that's one of the reasons I think the whole certificate of completion, if nothing else, provides some material back to the management, if you will, or whatever program they're in, to see the value of what they're doing, right? Kind of look through what that contains.
So kind of with that whole long-winded introduction there, so I'm thinking it kind of makes more sense in that context to make a single working group for VMware employees, right? And then we can, it makes it a lot more attainable to think that we could have a semi-regular meeting, and not that it necessarily needs to have a high cadence, but say maybe at least monthly, if not, bi-weekly. And I think it really does create much more of an opportunity to where, because really what you want people to be doing there is if, the professional services team has some win of something that, hey, professional services org, look, they actually have recognized, what we're doing here in some way. The ideal is that information gets communicated back to the other VMware roles so they can, learn from that and say, maybe that could somehow create an opportunity for me and support with my management team to.
It's certainly a way to incubate it a little more effectively, perhaps, just being able to hear what others are doing and what challenges have been addressed already in each of those groups and probably are different.
I think the same things too for like several of the different other groups. They are different topically, but they're somewhere under the guise of administration for the platform or development of course learning materials. And so really intending to hopefully by this time next week, or we talk all the time anyways, as I go through it, I'll discuss it more, but have those consolidated down into a much smaller number of groups. I do want to retain the topics and the labels, and so as issues come in, if there's an issue related to metrics analytics and data science, that label still is applied, but maybe if for the time being, Mad Science is a subcharter of the program administration, platform administration topic, and that way we can have a cadence of meetings and within the regular meetings for that community, if there are different
And
participants working on different
same
topics.
Same for the other areas. Continue to keep those tags so that like under VMware employees, you'd still have GSS, PS,
Yep.
et cetera.
Yeah, I'll have the tags there, and they can be like sub-charter subtopics that are within. So we have some, and that helps with if there's a VMware employees working group. What's the scope? What's the charter? We have kind of those. I think having the tags and those delineation points help to clarify and part of what the scope and what the charter is. But I think it'll work to consolidate those down. And I think if we get it to like 3-4 groups, one of the goals I had is to really facilitate additional meetings at a semi-regular cadence. And I don't want to do it too frequently because we're not that huge of a community yet. But I think especially if we do it at a time where other things like having the Modern Apps Ninja 101 courses out there, ideally get the general Ninja point system out there. And I think one of the big things that'll really facilitate contribution is leveraging the gamification inside the existing courses. Someone takes the TMC 201 course, right? And maybe as they're going through the TMC 201 course, they go through the lab, and just as part of that course sequence, it introduces, hey, there's, one, at the beginning, you get introduced to the idea there's a point system that you can earn points, and that can lead towards some cool thing, be a ninja or something. I don't know exactly yet, but you go through, and as you go through that, and you go through the lab guide, and you say there's an opportunity here to get points, and that is we need a video walkthrough of someone going through the lab guide. And it's a pretty easy thing to do. Generally what you want to do is go through the lab exercises once so it's smooth. You don't have to go in depth explaining the concepts, but really just have a nice walkthrough through the lab guides where people can see. Maybe some people will maybe, because you generally we know 99% of the problem when you have one of these lab guides, or 99% of the time there's a problem with that someone has in an HOL environment, or when they're going through a lab guide, is they went through it and they made a little error on one of the documented steps. Because generally once the steps are documented, those steps are solid. Sometimes there's a different type of problem with their lab environment, but in general, it's, I made a little error at a lot of step. And I think, being able to see someone went through it and I can kind of follow along with them through it, maybe go back and see what they did. I think that's a very, helpful thing, especially if someone, runs into something that they're struggling with. And it's easy to do. It's a low-hanging fruit, but I think you have that kind of gamification element. I can earn points. I can get a credential, and I don't have to put a lot of cognitive thought into. Let me go think about what to do. It's right in front of you as you're on the topic.
I think you're right on that. The structure makes it a lot easier to participate. Yeah.
So yeah, I hope to do more of that as I get some of the courses out there. And also, I said one of the reasons I want to discuss it on this call is if people start to think about, I'm interested in creating a course, but I don't know about the commitment to it. So they start encouraging at the level of, well, why don't you create the scaffolding here? And then we'll work together with the community, because I really think if we get the scaffolding right, if someone's broken down these sections and what we end up needing to complete this course are 5 or 6 5-minute videos that go over a topic, and we can go into the Ninja SE community internally and say, hey, everybody on the product discipline call or when we have other calls, we need a couple 5-minute videos about these particular topics. I think that's a very realistic thing we get the mix right. I think we could get a lot of participation in that, and that could be from I'm creating a new course, or when we have a cycle to go back through a course, it'll be something simple. Review this, check if it's current, or we need an updated 5-minute video here. It's similar.
Get somebody to go out and put it together, just a video of the walkthrough or whatever section. I think the small segments are definitely a real benefit to everything too. I really do.
Yeah, good stuff. One step at a time, but I think we're little by little getting closer to the formula here.
yeah, for sure. I guess you can probably stop. I guess I could stop the recording, huh? There you go.
Oh yeah, and thank you for reminding